Eva. I just wanted to take a video of something that I found beautiful.
What is happiness? How do we define happiness? The state of being happy, content, being surrounded by those you love and those who love you back, perhaps. The feeling of appreciation and positivity, appreciating all that is around you and all that you still wish to see. Happiness is the sensation of being home again. Happiness is walking in the rain. Happiness is walking with no pain. Making times for those that seek your presence and for things that influence the way you feel. Everything around you is brighter, joyful. Filling the days that remain with activities that make you happy. Imagine yourself driving in the car with the roof down, listening to the birds, listening to the sound. Letting the sun stream across the cracks your smile creates on your cheeks. Loving the sensation of the wind blowing through your hair with no care. Allowing yourself to let go and have little to no worry. The effortlessly simplicity of being positive and having no issue with doing things that make you happy.
Come on, Craig!
But what if that feeling were to stop momentarily? The colors surrounding you became darker. The presence of being with those you love becomes less appealing, isolating yourself from everyone that loves you and everything. The feeling of everything falling apart. A possible broken heart, to pick up all of their pieces and put them back together but still feel like they're broken. This feeling, this utterly draining feeling, is something called depression. A mental, not physical, disorder, yet can physically damage you. It is invisible, hidden from others that aren't affected. Many people would not be able to identify one that is affected. Depression can be unexplainable to those that have fortunately not suffered from it. Sadness, anger, hopelessness. These are just some of the many symptoms for depression. Sadness, the opposite of happiness, but the constant feeling of having to cry. Sadness cannot be categorized with depression. Extended sadness can be seen as the gateway to depression. Anger, the feeling of being diminished, inevitably precedes that feeling anger. Anger, perhaps something that you feel towards someone that hurt you. In fact, they hurt you so bad that anger feels like an understatement. Hopelessness, the feeling of giving up, not seeing the world for the beauty it truly is. A word we associate with hopelessness is emptiness. Emptiness, the heartbreaking feeling of feeling absolutely, completely, entirely nothing. Hopelessness, burying yourself in a hole so deep you're not able to see the light at the surface. Burying yourself in a hole so deep you don't want to find a way to escape. You no longer have the energy to fight. We look in a mirror, and in an instant thrown into despair, seeing all of our imperfections, all of our flaws, the big nose, the unsatisfactory hair, the sickening skin, the weight gain, the weight loss, always finding something we don't like, we don't want. These insecurities, these idiotic, pointless insecurities, cause some to not leave the house, not get out of bed. But the evolving, barely answered question is, how do we get happiness back? That feeling of happiness that pulls momentarily. How can we unpause?
Unpause, rewind. Try and leave the past depression behind. Begin to remember and remind yourself why you were happy in the first place. Try to convince yourself that that feeling happiness has not expired yet, but simply paused. Darkness isn't everywhere, it's in our minds. You just have to allow the light to return into life. Depression is not a physical disorder because we create it, meaning we can prevent it. So get out of bed, with the mindset of wanting to feel better, wanting to get better. Allow yourself to have the energy to find the missing piece to mend the broken parts of your heart. Allow yourself to be happy. How do we do this? How can we feel fixed quickly when we've been broken for so long? How can we act positive when we feel as though we are surrounded by pure negativity? How? A constant question we ask ourselves. How? Look at this visual analogy of a jam jar. Everybody has their own mental illness jar. Everybody has their own stories. Within this jam jar are two different kinds of vulnerability factors, one being genetics and the other environmental. Throughout our life, the jar becomes more filled with these factors. However, the jar can only be filled to the top if you are actively experiencing an episode of depression. The jar becomes more filled when experiencing anxiety, sadness, friend and academic stress, etc., which can be influenced by your environment and genetic issues. Your jar isn't stuck being a single size. You're not able to enlarge your jar, yet you can add to it to create your protective factors. These protective factors consist of sleep, nutrition, exercise, social support. These are all helpful strategies for mental health. Imagine these protective factors essentially being rings stacking at the top of your jar, making it taller and taller and taller, depending on all the positive factors you find and want to add to your jar. This visual analogy enables you to see all the positive things in life that make you happy instead of all the things that don't. Identify how much taller your jar has become. Identify how many positive things there are in life that you forget to remember. Identify how many rings stacked on top of your jar there are. So when you're feeling down, with little to no motivation, remember this simple analogy of a jar. Remember that everyone has a mental jar, filled with their own stresses, their own experiences, their own feelings. Yet also remember that as life goes on, you can add more and more rings to your jar, but you can't add more negatives to put in the actual jar. So start adding more protective factors today. Introduce exercise back into your life. Go for a run, free your mind. Surround yourself with friends and family. If you have been concealing all these emotions inside, it's time to release them and open up to someone. Go to a specialist, talk to your friends or family. Get out of bed. Ask your friends to hang out, don't shut them out. Don't allow yourself to be unhappy. Give happiness a chance to redeem itself. The anger that you felt towards someone or something, find the energy to either isolate yourself from that negative situation or find a way around it, but do not isolate yourself from the positive. Make times for those that make you happy and less for those that don't. Make times for things that make you happy and less for those that don't. Depression will soon seem so pointless when you realize how insanely incredible happiness feels. So give happiness a chance.